She fled the wedding when an intruder showed up on her doorstep. Every morning when I wake up, I feel like the world stops, if only for a few minutes. This is the moment before the most important event of my life. Today I become a wife. Yeah, that sounds like an old movie. There is a slight excitement in my head, but at the same time, a certainty that everything will be exactly as I imagined. This is the moment that's supposed to make me happy. And everything around me creates a picture of a perfect day. A white dress, a bouquet, smiles, and the very man for whom I am ready to forget everything that was before. There is a strange sense of hazy harmony here in this luxurious room. Perfectly clean floor, flowers, light-colored walls, musicians who seem to be waiting for their time. The guests begin to gather, everything is in its place, something important is about to happen. But something is wrong. The sky outside the windows is too clear, and the smell of the air is too fresh. It all feels too right. And that moment in life when you realize, everything has to be, but you can't shake the idea that there's something else behind it. I'm standing in the corner, watching it all. The hair, the makeup, every detail is like a glossy picture. I feel like I'm ready to be a part of something bigger than just another wedding. But here it is, that moment when my thoughts start to race and give me no rest. My hand trembles as I check my lines for my vows. It's important, isn't it? The moment I take his hand, everything will be real, and nothing will ever be the same again. I sometimes think that there are so many wrong things in life, and that's why I have to do the right thing. Getting married is like the ultimate test to see if you're ready. I look beautiful with Alexander by my side. He is my hero, my ideal. He has it all: intelligence, charm, beauty. Everything seems perfect, but there's still something in my chest. I guess it's just because a wedding is an event that requires a lot of courage. Taking responsibility for your life and the life of another person. It sure as hell isn't easy. And somehow I think he's hiding something, too. Something that isn't open yet, but something that will be revealed sooner or later. I see the look in his eyes. He's just as worried, but he hides it well. He knows how to be steadfast. Everyone is waiting for the ceremony to begin. Everyone has already taken their seats. But something is slipping away. Why can't I calm down? It's like when you're walking down an empty street and you hear footsteps behind you, but you turn around and there's no one. No, that's not fear. It's some kind of inner fear of losing what I've just gained. And the more I realize it, the more I lose myself. As strange as it sounds, I'm afraid that I won't be able to hide the fact that I'm not quite ready. I feel like I'm playing someone else's game. Sometimes I feel stuck in this perfectly constructed life, but somehow I'm drawn to tearing it all down. Everything I build, it's all as fragile as glass. And so, with every moment I sink into my inner state, this anxiety grows stronger. It's impossible not to notice how the people around me keep their eyes on me. It doesn't seem scary. But because I know that life is not that simple. I'm not ready to just accept what I'm being offered. There are a lot of questions, a lot of doubts that plague me. I once thought that love was all I needed. But is it? I look at him again. Alexander. He's smiling, and that smile is familiar to me, but there's something in its depths. Hidden. Maybe I'm just thinking too much? But that's exactly what's bothering me, isn't it? With each step, getting closer to the moment when I say yes, I begin to realize that I don't like the way things look. But there's no stopping it now. As I stand here, thoughts fly to events that happened recently. At these moments, someone uninvited often shows up. This time I don't know who it is. But my intuition tells me it's no accident. Perhaps in his eyes I will find answers to the questions that have long plagued me. I can't even imagine what he'll do when he shows up. Yes, there are times in life when you want to give up. But not now. Not before the wedding. It seems like that's the way it should be, But something tells me I'm wrong. It'll be here soon. All the guests have gathered. The ceremony is about to begin. The excitement fades away, leaving room for something more serious. Alexander's gaze is staring into the void, and I'm almost ready to step into this new phase. However, I feel my inner voice continue to shout, "Are you ready? This is your step. Don't be afraid." All around me, familiar faces flash by. My mom and dad by my side, my sister, friends, old co-workers. Everyone is smiling. Everyone likes how I look in this dress, how Alexander and I are approaching this moment. No complaints, no sharp edges, everything seems flawless. Or almost everything. I catch my fiancé's eye and he smiles. And really everything seems so simple, so natural. But then something makes me freeze. He appears at the door, the uninvited guest. No one was expecting him. A strange shadow flickers across my mom's face, as if she's seeing not just a man, but someone who shouldn't be here. He's tall, with a deep stare. His face seems familiar, but not quite. Dark hair, lightly tanned skin, clothes with no frills. It's as if he's in this room by accident. But something in his demeanor makes me uncomfortable. And there he is, appearing on the threshold. An unknown man whose presence immediately shatters the calm of the day. I feel my heart start to beat faster. It's not just a man. It's not just a stranger. There's something in his eyes. I look around. Everyone is still carrying on their conversations. Someone is laughing, someone is clicking cameras, and I only have eyes for him. He doesn't move. It's as if he's studying the room, as if this whole wedding is his personal scene. I glance over at Alexander. He's visibly tense. Silent, his gaze focused. Why did this man come here? Why now? Alexander rises, heading toward the stranger with a businesslike, almost cold expression on his face. I don't understand what's happening, but my body seems to resonate with this sense of unease that's growing with every passing second. I see the man and Alexander exchange a few phrases. Greetings, handshakes. Everything is so neutral, so calm. But there's something strange in his words. As if he knows more about us than we thought. He speaks as if he knows everything here, as if everything I'm going through is just part of a long-known story. My heart clenches again. His gaze, that brief exchange of phrases with Alexander. They're carrying on a conversation, but I can't hear the words. It's as if this man is like opening a door to my past, the very one I've long feared. Just as he turns to leave, our eyes meet. And I suddenly realize he recognizes me. No, he didn't. He knew me before I was here. He knew me before, in a different place, in a different time. I turn around to catch Alexander's gaze, but he's already disappearing into the crowd. I'm left wondering. Why did he come? Why now? And what does he have to do with what I've been through? There was something familiar in his eyes. Something I couldn't remember for a long time. But now, with every look, with every move he made, that story comes back. And it won't let me rest until I realize exactly what he means to me. The intruder disappears again, leaving only a void where he had just stood. Everyone goes back to their conversations, but I still can't tear myself away from his image. Something about his presence filled the room with a heavy air. Unconsciously, I begin to feel as if the events of this day, of the wedding, are taking me to a completely different reality. Could this be the moment I've been dreading? My thoughts become cloudy, and my mind keeps spinning. Who is he? And what brought him here? The gala part is over, and everything seems to be going according to plan. The guests with smiles on their faces moved on to treats and congratulations. Alexander seemed to be in his element, responding to congratulations, stopping for photos. All around it was like a picture-perfect wedding day, just like I had dreamed of. But something about that ideal didn't sit right. My soul was in chaos. I continued to keep my eyes on the uninvited guest. He disappeared from sight, but in my mind, his face never left me. Everything I had experienced seemed distant and unimportant compared to what might be lurking in this story. So what did he mean to me? Why was his appearance such a blow? What if he was the reason everything in my life changed? And here it is. The moment when I can't take it anymore. I suddenly feel short of breath. The walls of the wedding, the smiling faces, the friendly conversations, it's all become somehow superfluous. I sink back into myself, trying to figure out what's happening to me, what's wrong with my thoughts and feelings. Why can't I focus? Why can't I be here anymore? At this moment, everything around me seems to disappear. I don't hear any sounds or voices. I just feel like I'm being pulled back into something I've been trying to forget. Shit, I can't go on. I can't. I'm up. Quickly. I walk out of the hall without thinking. No one notices me disappear. I walk outside, and I don't care about the rain. I don't care about the world I'm leaving behind. All I want is to get rid of these stairs, all these people, this fake world. I'm running. No, not just running. It's like I'm tearing myself away from something that's pulling me into the depths. With each step, anxiety grips me, and the faster I run, the farther away everything I've tried to build goes. And now I'm outside, drenched in rain, and I realize that I may have just destroyed everything I've ever had. And now here I am, in the dark, expecting the next moment to bring an answer, but there is no answer. I can feel the stones under my fingernails, the dirt on my face, how everything that was once important to me is now becoming empty. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Meanwhile, in the hall, Alexander notices my disappearance. He drops everything around him and, like a defeated man, rushes out to look for me. His face, full of anxiety, turns into an expression of determination. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand why I left. Why I chose this strange, inexplicable night to leave. My footsteps continue to take me farther away, and my thoughts begin to blur. His image appears in my mind, this intruder. But why am I running? What if this is all a reaction to something that has long been hidden in my past? Can I go back and leave it all behind? Or am I forever consumed by this shadow that once haunted me? And it's at this moment, when I hear his footsteps behind me, that I realize. He's looking for me. But he can't find me. He doesn't know how to proceed. I burst into his life, ruining all his hunches and plans. What will happen next? His eyes are filled with love, desire, fear. All the things in his soul that once should have brought us together. But now his feeling is empty. I can't find the answers to my own questions. I keep moving forward. I don't turn around. And then I stop in front of the very bridge I've always dreamed of. It's been in my life before. But how? Why am I thinking of him now? Why is his image so vivid, as if I need something from the past? Alexander is getting closer. I know he's catching up to me. I know he will come to me, that he will find me. But what he can't realize is that it's not him I've walked away from, it's what's behind this day, behind these people. Why did I do it? Why didn't I tell him the truth sooner? Why couldn't I be with him if things were going so well? He fits, and I know he'll understand me. But what happens when we meet? What happens when he finds out what made me run away? Alexander stood on the threshold of his new life, and it had all seemed so simple. But now, after she'd run away, that perfect day was just one big illusion. He couldn't calm down. All the congratulations, the smiles, the expectations, they had become empty and useless. He thought about her, about what could have made her leave in the middle of their day. Was she running from him? From their future? Or from what lurked in her past? He didn't know. But he was sure of one thing: she couldn't just leave. There was something in her eyes that he had never noticed before. When they'd first met, she'd seemed perfect. But now he realized something was hidden, and that something might be something he had to realize if he wanted to keep what they had. Every step Alexander took was hard, but he couldn't stop. He knew he had to find answers. There was no time to regret what had happened. He turned to her friends, to her family. But all of them, like a carbon copy, said the same thing. She couldn't have done it. Everything was perfect. And yet, the more he listened, the more he felt those words didn't match what he was feeling. And then, one day when he was coming home, he noticed a strange item in her things, an old photo album. It wasn't like all the others, with love photos and memories of how they met. This one was filled with images of people and places Alexander didn't know. Not his friends, not his relatives. And it all seemed too personal to ignore. Opening the first page, he found pictures of her, but not the girl he'd met. There was sadness in her eyes, and in each picture she was with someone he didn't know. These pictures were taken before they met. In one of them she was standing with a man, quite grown up, with a serious look in his eyes. He was different. Not at all what he had expected to see. Alexander felt a cold wave come over him. Who was this? Why had he never heard of him? He flipped through the pages, and each picture, each detail became more and more intriguing and disturbing. In one picture a man was holding her hand, and in another they were sitting on a bench in the park. He knew this man was important. Knew he should have been a part of her life, but his name was hidden. Her life before him remained a mystery. Alexander continued to investigate, feeling that each step brought him closer to a clue. He asked questions, found old records, correspondence that led to the same man. This man, it turned out, wasn't just a part of her past. He was the man she'd been with before him, before this wedding. And perhaps he was the one who had played a role in her life that Alexander couldn't even imagine. Time passed, and the answers kept slipping away. He knew that her reaction to that stranger who came to the wedding wasn't random. It was a reaction to someone who was too close to her dark past. No matter what he did, that identity haunted her. And he felt like there was something about it that he couldn't understand. One day, he finally met the very stranger. It was the man in the picture. He was an old friend of her family. And he was the one who had played a crucial role in her life. Their connection wasn't just a chance meeting. He was connected to her past in a way that made his presence impossible for her. Everything was clear now. He was the one who had once shattered her world, made her run. He was the one who had changed her life forever, leaving a wound in her heart that wouldn't heal. And her running away hadn't been accidental. She'd run away from him, from everything that was connected to him. But why hadn't she told him this before? Why hadn't she told him what lurked behind that shadow? Why hadn't she shared her story? Alexander felt his world crumbling. He realized that their relationship wasn't what he thought it was. She wasn't just a girl who'd left. She was a woman with a past she'd hidden from him. And now that he knew the whole truth, now that he realized what was behind it, he didn't know what to do with that knowledge. The mysterious visitor wasn't just a stranger. He was the man who had left an indelible mark on her life. And now that this secret was revealed, Alexander was faced with a choice: accept this truth or leave it behind without asking too many questions. And that's when he began to lose himself. Who was she really? A kaleidoscope of thoughts kept whizzing through Alexander's head, keeping him on his toes. Each new detail he uncovered seemed more and more overwhelming. But the more he learned about her past, the more he felt his world crumbling. He didn't know who she really was, and each step toward figuring it out confused him more and more. That stranger she had behaved so strangely with at the wedding turned out to be her former lover, but that was only the beginning. Alexander discovered that there wasn't just a romantic past between them, but a whole tragic story that left an indelible mark on her life. They met many years ago when she was still young, full of hope, and completely unaware that her fate would soon change. It started as an innocent infatuation that grew into something more serious, but with every step it became more dangerous. This man was the one who had once been the center of her life, and everything that happened after was the result of their failed relationship. She had loved him, believed in his words, and he had promised her a future that turned out to be a lie. He was the one who destroyed her, leaving behind pain and disappointment. He was the one who taught her to hide her feelings, to hide her worries, to protect herself from the pain. And now, years later, he was back. Alexander knew now that this man wasn't just someone she had once loved. He was the one who had made her unable to truly love. He was the one who had destroyed her faith in people. Every moment, every look, every gesture was now becoming a part of that terrible past she was trying to put behind her. But what was particularly disturbing was that her escape wasn't a simple walk away. She wasn't just running away, she was trying to avoid what seemed inevitable. Her life had been tied to this man so tightly that she couldn't just move past her history. He was her attachment, her pain, her invisible anchor that continued to hold her in the past even as she tried to build her future with Alexander. Alexander stood in front of her, but his gaze was now full of disappointment. He felt cheated. He knew what she was hiding, but he didn't know how deeply hidden her present was. He couldn't believe that everything he and she had built was not just the result of love, but an attempt to escape his own pain. He realized he could never be the man she wanted him to be because her past would always remain between them. Every clue, every detail revealed to him called into question everything he'd thought he felt. He had loved her, but now he didn't know which of it was real. He didn't know if he was part of her life, or just a temporary relief from the pain that wouldn't leave her. These thoughts tormented him. He tried to figure out what had happened in her life to make her willing to hide the truth like that. What was it about her past that made her afraid? How could she love him when everything she had once experienced had left such a wound? Every conversation with her friends, with her family, with those who had been there for her during those years when she was trying to forget that terrible period of her life, opened up new vistas. They all tried to explain that she couldn't be happy because her heart was broken and her past wouldn't let her go. They said that she was bound to this man so strongly that even years later his shadow remained with her. But no one could answer the question of why she hadn't told him sooner. Why hadn't she opened her soul, shared her painful past before they started building their lives? Why had she left it all hidden, and now, when everything seemed almost perfect, her past was getting in the way again? Alexander realized there was no answer. All he knew was that she was hiding the truth, and now he couldn't be sure that his love was as real as he thought. The mystery of her past hid so many layers of pain and regret that Alexander found it unbearably hard. Everything around him felt like a lie. He stood on the edge, not knowing what to do. Love her in spite of everything? Or give up on her because the past she didn't want to reveal was too heavy for their future? Everything was becoming unclear. Each clue only increased his inner conflict. He was getting more and more lost, not knowing what to consider the truth. Alexander sat in his office, his hands clenched over the letters, old photographs, and notes he had collected over the past few days. Each new discovery led to more understanding, but it also deepened his pain. He knew what she had kept from him. He knew she had never told the whole truth, but what he now knew made him feel like a stranger in their own lives. The mystery of her elopement was beginning to unfold, and now that all the secrets had been brought to light, he realized that her leaving wasn't just a whim or a flash of emotion. It was something more, something rooted in her past. At the moment the uninvited guest showed up at the wedding, Alexander didn't know it would be the turning point in their relationship. He thought it was just an accident, a certain person who happened to be among the guests. But now he realized it was a much more complex and tragic moment. This man wasn't just a part of her past. He was the cause of her pain, the cause of her fear, the cause of her escape. and his appearance at the wedding meant that her past had come for her. There was this one tragic love in her life. The very man who came to her wedding was her first real man. But their relationship was shattered by a tragic event that left her heart empty and despairing. This man, like her, was racked with pain, but he couldn't deal with what had happened. His life took a different path and he walked out of her life, leaving her lonely and broken. When they met again at the wedding, her heart responded to his presence again, no matter how much she tried to avoid it. This man was the one unopened chapter of her past that she couldn't forget. And so this moment, meeting him at the wedding, had become too painful, too important to her. It was a reminder that she couldn't forgive herself, couldn't forget what had happened to her, and how her life had broken the moment this man had left her. Alexander felt his world turn upside down. He saw that her escape wasn't about him personally. It was an escape from what she had experienced, from what had happened years ago. She couldn't afford to enter her new life with that burden. She couldn't live with the fact that her past would always be with her, like a shadow that wouldn't let go. And he understood that her fear of this man was so strong that she chose to leave rather than let him become a part of her life again. Her escape was a decision she made to protect herself. She was afraid that if she stayed, she would not be able to relive the past. She was afraid that her failed relationship with this man would affect her present, that she would find herself back in this chaos, this quagmire that she had been trying to get out of her whole life. When she met this man at the wedding, everything she had tried to forget came flooding back. The same feelings, the same pains she had tried to suppress, flared up in her soul again. It was at that moment that she decided she couldn't go on. She must leave, lest she sink back into this nightmare again. Alexander realized that he could never understand her past without knowing how much it had affected her present. He had felt resentment, but now he saw that this resentment had nothing to do with him. She couldn't give him her love until she closed this painful cycle that had followed her all her life. And maybe her decision to run away was the best thing she could do for herself to start over. He realized that she didn't need to be rescued from herself. She didn't need saving. She needed acceptance. It wasn't until he realized this that he realized that her leaving wasn't an act of betrayal, but an act of self-preservation. It was her way of dealing with something that was too painful to bear. Everything was falling into place. The intruder was the very man from her past with whom she had never been able to complete her story. This was the moment that finally untied that knot. She couldn't live with the story. She couldn't build a future when her past remained unresolved. It was too painful. Alexander finally realized. Everything that had been hidden, everything that had remained unspoken, became clear. He knew their relationship couldn't be perfect if she didn't accept her history. He knew she needed time. And only that time, that opportunity to realize her feelings and let go of the past, would allow her to move forward. With each step, each discovery, he felt his own heart break, but also filled with understanding at the same time. He wasn't perfect, and neither was she. But they could find each other if she freed herself from her past. He could be her support if she would let him be there for her, but to do that she needed to free herself from this heavy weight she was carrying. When they met again, she was ready to meet his gaze without fear, without the pains of the past. All that remained was their future.